there are just some conversations that they feel different, right?
Yeah.
The ones where the air gets a little thin, maybe your stomach does a flip.
Yeah.
And you just know whatever happens next could really shift things.
Yeah.
They're not just chats.
Yeah.
They feel crucial.
Absolutely crucial. And the sources we've been digging into, they really nail this definition.
Oh, yeah. How so?
Well, they say it's whenever you've got, like, differing opinions, number one.
Okay.
Number two, the stakes are high.
Right.
And number three, emotions are running strong. Think about that combination.
Yeah, that intersection.
Yeah.
Opinions, stakes, emotions. That's definitely where things get tough.
That's the challenge zone.
And let's be honest, when we hit that point, most of us don't exactly bring our A game, communication-wise.
Right. Permit.
We tend to default to stuff that, often makes things worse. Why is that so common?
It's a really fundamental question, actually, and the sources offer some compelling insights.
Good.
So our mission here in this deep dive is really to unpack those ideas, pull out the core skills they identify, and, give you a bit of a shortcut to understanding how to navigate these moments better.
A shortcut sounds good.
No.
And the sources, they're not shy about the potential payoff, are they?
Not at all. They make this claim that sounds, almost audacious.
Which is?
That mastering these conversations, it can literally kickstart your career.
Wow.
Dramatically improve your relationships, strengthen whole organizations, even communities.
Okay, that's huge.
And get this, even boost your personal health.
Your health. How does that work?
Yeah, it's fascinating. They mention research linking these communication skills to, like, improved immune function.
Seriously.
And even better recovery from disease. It really highlights that this isn't just about soft skills.
No, it sounds like it has real, tangible, even physical impacts.
Definitely.
Okay, so let's dig in. Why do these conversations trip us up so badly?
Well, one of the first things the sources point to is biology, basically. In a way, we're almost biologically designed wrong for these high-stakes moments.
Designed wrong. How?
When a conversation turns crucial stakes up, emotions high, that ancient fight-or-flight response just kicks in hard.
Okay. Adrenaline, cortisol.
Exactly. Your body preps for physical danger. Blood rushes to your arms and legs.
Ready to punch or run.
Right, which means less blood flows to the parts of your brain that handle complex thought, social nuance, reasoning.
So the smart bits go offline.
Pretty much. The sources put it pretty bluntly. You're left with the equipment available to a rhesus monkey.
Ouch. Okay. Not ideal for delicate negotiation or empathy.
Not at all. And then layered on top of that biological wiring is the sheer pressure of the moment.
Right.
Crucial conversations often just happen. They blow up unexpectedly.
Yeah, usually schedule them.
No. So you're forced to navigate intense feelings, tricky dynamics, high stakes.
Yeah.
All in real time. No script, no prep.
So you're biologically compromised and thrown into the deep end without a life vest.
That's a good way to put it.
What else makes it so hard?
Well, often we're just stumped. We don't know what else to do because we lack good role models. Think about the examples you've seen, maybe growing up, maybe at work. How did people handle conflict? Was it always constructive?
Probably not. You see a lot of yelling or sulking or avoidance.
Exactly. We see plenty of what not to do, but genuinely positive, effective examples, they're rarer.
Yeah.
And the sources make this great point. Practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. If you don't have a clear picture of what perfect even looks like in these situations, you don't know what skills to actually work on.
That makes so much sense. You're flying blind with a monkey brain based on bad examples. No wonder it goes wrong.
And then there's the final piece, which is maybe the most frustrating.
Okay.
We tend to act in ways that are completely self-defeating. Our own reactions under stress, they actually create the very outcomes we were trying to avoid.
How so? Give me an example.
Okay, like the sources mention. Say, a spouse feels neglected. They try hinting, maybe gets ignored. So they get resentful, withdraw, maybe get sarcastic, which of course pushes their partner further away.
Confirming their original fear of being neglected, it's a loop.
A vicious, unhealthy loop. Or the roommate example they use. You're annoyed they keep borrowing your clothes without asking.
Right.
So maybe you start leaving passive-aggressive notes or complaining loudly to friends where they might overhear.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
They hear it, feel attacked or disrespected, and maybe they double down, start taking stuff out of spite.
Oh, no.
Your attempt to cope or avoid a direct conversation actually made the situation worse.
It's like our worst fears become self-fulfilling prophecies, driven by our own bad behavior in that crucial moment.
Precisely. So, okay, that's the challenge laid out. Big challenge.
Yeah.
So what's the breakthrough? What did the research in these sources identify as, like, the absolute core of success, the one thing?
Okay, the one thing. The sources highlighted this really powerful finding.
Mm.
People and teams who are highly effective, they excel at getting all the relevant information out into the open.
Yes. All of it into the open. They call this dialogue.
Dialogue. Okay, simple word, but what does it mean in this context?
It's fundamentally about the free flow of meaning between two or more people.
Free flow of meaning. Unpack that a bit.
Okay, picture this. Everyone in the conversation has their own unique viewpoint, right? Their feelings, their experiences, their theories, the facts they know.
Sure. Everyone brings their own stuff.
Right. Dialogue is the process of creating a space that feels safe enough for everyone to add their stuff to a kind of shared understanding.
Like a pool.
Exactly. They call it the pool of shared meaning.
Hmm.
And the key is making it safe to add any meaning, even ideas that are controversial or unpopular or conflict with what others think.
So it's not necessarily about agreeing on everything right away.
Not at all. It's about making sure everything that needs to be considered is actually visible and accessible to everyone involved. Getting it all into that shared pool.
Okay, so why is building up this pool of shared meaning so important?
Two huge reasons, according to the sources. First, it leads to way better decisions.
How?
Well, when you have more accurate and relevant information available because everyone feels safe contributing, the collective understanding is just richer, deeper. It actually increases the group IQ, so to speak.
That hospital example they used was chilling on this point,
Oh, yeah.
where staff were too afraid to speak up about concerns. And it led to a tragic, preventable medical error. It really shows the cost of an empty shared pool.
It's a very powerful, very sobering reminder of the stakes sometimes. But on the positive side, when meaning does flow freely, people build on each other's ideas, they spot risks others missed, they create solutions nobody would have come up with alone.
Okay, so better decisions because you have more complete information. Makes sense. What's the second big benefit?
Increased commitment to whatever decisions are made.
Okay. Buy-in.
Exactly. When people have genuinely contributed their meaning to the pool, when they feel their ideas and concerns were heard, even if the final decision wasn't exactly what they wanted, they understand the why behind it. They were part of the process that created it.
Right.
And that leads to much stronger buy-in and commitment to actually implementing the decision. Compare that to situations where people just stay quiet.
And then maybe drag their feet later.
Or complain or passively resist precisely because they didn't feel heard or involved.
The source had that great quote, "He that complies against his will is of his own opinion still."
Perfect quote for it. If you don't get your meaning into the pool, you're probably not going to swim with the current that emerges from it.
Okay, so dialogue and the pool of shared meaning are vital, but how does it break down?
It breaks down when people feel unsafe. That's the core insight.
Safety.
When safety disappears, people stop contributing constructively. They stop adding to the pool. Instead, they resort to what the sources call, quite vividly, silly and costly games.
Games? Like what?
Well, they fall into two main categories, silence and violence.
Silence and violence. Okay.
Silence is basically withholding meaning. You deliberately keep your thoughts, feelings, or information out of the shared pool.
Why would you do that?
Usually fear. Fear of consequences, fear of conflict, fear of looking stupid, maybe just wanting to avoid the whole uncomfortable mess.
Makes sense. What forms does silence take?
The sources break it down into three main types. First, there's masking.
Masking.
Yeah, where you understate or selectively show what you really think, using sarcasm, sugarcoating things,
Yeah.
hinting.
Like saying, oh, that's an interesting approach when you actually think it's a terrible idea.
Exactly. Or saying, I'm fine when you're clearly not. That's masking.
Okay, what else?
Then there's avoiding. This is where you actively steer clear of the sensitive topic.
Change the subject.
Change the subject, yeah. Or talk about superficial things, complain to people outside the conversation instead of the person involved.
Yeah.
Anything but address the real issue.
Got it. And the third?
Withdrawing, which is just pulling out of the conversation entirely.
Like literally leaving the room.
Could be leaving the room, yeah.
Yeah.
Or ending the call, ending the relationship even, or just completely shutting down and going silent within the conversation itself.
Ugh.
Checking out mentally.
Okay, so masking, avoiding, withdrawing, that's silence. What about the other side? Violence.
Violence in this context isn't necessarily physical, is any verbal strategy that tries to force your meaning into the pool, usually by trying to compel, control, or attack others.
Okay. So it also destroys safety, but in a more aggressive way.
Exactly. It makes others feel attacked, defensive, unsafe. So they shut down too.
What are the forms of violence?
Again, the sources list three main ones. First is controlling.
Control.
This is things like cutting people off, dominating the airtime, maybe overstating your facts, using absolute language like everyone knows, or it's obvious that...
Using always and never.
Classic controlling tactics designed to shut down disagreement. Then there's labeling.
Labeling, like putting people in boxes.
Yeah, assigning a stereotype or a dismissive label to a person or their idea so you don't have to actually engage with the substance of it.
Like calling a suggestion just typical short-sighted thinking. Or dismissing someone's concern because, well, you would say that, wouldn't you?
Precisely. It's a shortcut to invalidation. And the third form is attacking.
Okay, this sounds more direct.
It is. Attacking moves beyond the issue to make it personal. Belittling someone, questioning their motives, using threats, name-calling, basically trying to make the other person feel bad or scared so they back down. Hitting below the belt.
Wow. Okay, so silence and violence are these games people play when they feel unsafe.
That's the crucial link. Seeing silence or violence emerge isn't just seeing bad behavior. It's like a warning siren going off.
A siren signaling.
Safety has evaporated. The free flow of meaning has stopped. Dialogue is dead in the water.
That shift in perspective, seeing these behaviors as signs of fear rather than just, malice or aggression, that feels really important.
It's huge because it fundamentally changes how you might react when you see it.
Okay, so we get why it's hard. We know we're aiming for dialogue and that shared pool. What's the very first principle the sources offer for actually getting better at this? Where do we start?
Principle 1, start with heart.
Start with heart, okay.
The sources are really clear on this. The only person you can directly control or reliably change in any conversation is... Yourself. So this principle is all about beginning these high-risk discussions with the right motives. And this is key, staying focused on those motives even when things get heated or difficult.
Maintaining focus when your monkey brain wants to take over. How do skilled people actually do that? The sources mention two key practices.
They do. First, they get absolutely crystal clear on what they really want.
That they really want.
Yeah. Not just winning the argument, not just being proven right, not just punishing the other person or making them feel bad, not even just avoiding discomfort for yourself. They focus on the genuine, positive, long-term outcomes they desire. For themselves, yes, but also for the other people involved and for the relationship itself.
Okay, clarity on true desires. What's the second practice?
They absolutely refuse to make what the sources call sucker's choices.
Sucker's choices, what's that?
It's that binary either thinking that feels so compelling when you're under pressure. I can either tell the truth and completely destroy this relationship, or I can keep my mouth shut and just be miserable.
Yeah, that feeling of being trapped between two bad options.
Exactly. Skilled communicators reject that false dilemma. They believe there's almost always a third, more productive path. The sources call it seeking the elusive end. They don't let themselves off the hook by claiming they had no other choice but to behave badly.
But how do you actually find that area A in the heat of the moment? When, like we said, your rational brain is offline and it really feels like it's either fight or flight, honesty or harmony.
This is where the practical technique comes in. It involves pausing, stepping back mentally, even for just a second, and asking yourself some specific questions.
Okay, what questions?
First set, what do I really want? For myself, for the other person, for our relationship. Really digging for the genuine positive motive.
Okay. Get clear on the goal.
Then the crucial follow-up. Okay, if I really wanted those results, how would I be behaving right now?
That connects the motive to the action.
It does. And asking these questions is incredibly powerful neurologically. It literally forces your brain to shift gears.
Wow.
It pulls blood flow and resources away from the primitive fight-or-flight centers and directs them back towards the prefrontal cortex, the part designed for complex thought, problem-solving, and managing social situations.
So asking the questions actually helps bring your smart brain back online.
It gives your higher brain a specific, constructive job to do, pulling you out of that reactive survival mode.
That's cool.
And part of starting with heart is also recognizing when you're slipping away from those good motives, catching yourself when you start wanting to win or punish or just protect yourself by hiding.
Being self-aware about those less helpful drives.
Exactly. And actively refusing that sucker's choice. Really identifying it as a false dilemma. It's so tempting to believe I have to choose between being honest and keeping the peace, or I have to choose between speaking up and keeping my job.
Yeah, those feel like real trade-offs sometimes.
But the sources insist you challenge that. To find the and, you first clarify what you do want. Then you clarify what you don't want, the negative outcome you're afraid of if you just blunder in.
Okay.
And then you combine them into an and question that frames the real challenge.
Can you give an example of that and question?
Sure. Instead of thinking, do I tell my boss this project timeline is unrealistic and risk looking negative, or do I just stay quiet and let it fail?
Right. The sucker's choice.
You reframe it as, how can I share my concerns about the timeline honestly and be seen as a constructive, helpful team member? Or how can I talk to my partner about feeling disconnected and actually strengthen our intimacy?
Ah, okay. That changes the problem from an impossible choice to a creative challenge.
Precisely. It opens your mind to searching for better options instead of just resigning yourself to one of the two bad ones your stressed brain first presented.
Okay, that's principle 1. Start with heart. Get your motives right. Refuse sucker's choices. What's the second principle?
Principle 2 is learn to look.
Learn to look. Okay, look for what?
This is about developing a kind of awareness, situational awareness during the conversation. The sources call it dual processing.
Dual processing, like multitasking.
Sort of. It means you need to train yourself to pay attention to two things at once. The content of the conversation, what you're actually talking about, the topic, and the conditions of the conversation. How are things going? What's the atmosphere? Crucially, what's happening with safety? How are people behaving and feeling? What's the tone?
So I'm tracking what we're saying, but also how we're saying it and how people are reacting.
Exactly. It's like having one eye on the substance and one eye on the process. Think of it like social first aid.
Social first aid.
Yeah. The sooner you spot a problem like safety starting to dwindle, the easier it is to treat it before it becomes a major issue, before people retreat into silence or lash out with violence. Catch it early.
Makes sense. So what specifically should I be looking for?
3 key things. First, learn to recognize when a conversation turns crucial for you. What are your own personal warning signs?
My tills.
Yeah, your tells. Pay attention to your physical signals, that knot in your stomach. Maybe your face gets hot, shallow breathing.
Okay.
Or your emotional reactions. Do you suddenly feel defensive, angry, scared? Or your default behaviors. Do you clam up, get sarcastic, raise your voice? Know your own cues that you're entering that crucial zone.
Yeah, okay. Mine are definitely a racing heart. And I either get really quiet or I start talking way too fast, stumbling over words.
Knowing that is vital self-awareness. That's the first thing to look for. Second, watch for signs that other people don't feel safe.
Ah, okay. Looking outward now.
Right. This is where spotting those silence and violence behaviors we talked about becomes critical. Are they masking, avoiding, controlling, attacking? And crucially, remember why they're likely doing it. It's probably not just because they're difficult people. It's a sign of fear.
So recoding the stimulus again, not they're attacking me, but they must feel unsafe right now.
Exactly. That reframe is essential for learning to look effectively. It stops you from just reacting defensively. And the third thing to look for, your own style under stress.
My style.
Yeah. What's your go-to reaction when the pressure is on? The sources talk about identifying your typical default. Are you more prone to masking, avoiding, withdrawing? Or maybe controlling and labeling?
Probably a mix, but maybe leaning towards avoiding or masking.
Knowing that tendency helps you become what they call a vigilant self-monitor. You start paying attention not just to the other person, but to the impact your behavior is having on safety.
Because my reaction could easily be the thing triggering their lack of safety.
Absolutely. It's often a feedback loop. So Learn to Look is about cultivating this multi-layered awareness of the conditions, of others' signs of safety or lack thereof, and of your own impact. Spotting problems early.
Okay. And once you do spot that, safety is at risk. I guess that leads right into the third principle.
You got it. Principle 3, make it safe.
Make it safe. This sounds like the action step.
It is. And the core move here is often counterintuitive. When you notice safety is gone, you see silence or violence, the skilled response is to temporarily step out of the content.
Stop talking about the actual issue.
For a moment, yes. Stop pushing your agenda on the topic itself. Your immediate job becomes rebuilding safety. Once safety is restored, then you can step back in and continue discussing the original issue.
So you don't just ignore the lack of safety and barrel ahead.
That's the unskilled approach, and it almost always makes things worse.
Or you don't just try to, sugarcoat the content to make it feel safer.
Right. That's another mistake. Trying to soften the message doesn't fix the underlying reason why safety broke down. You have to address the safety issue directly.
Okay, so step out, build safety, step back in. How do you build safety?
Well, first you need to understand why it broke down. The sources say safety rests on two main pillars, two conditions. If one or both are threatened, safety disappears.
Okay, 2 pillars. What's the first one?
The first condition of safety is mutual purpose.
Mutual purpose. What does that mean exactly?
It means that the other person perceives that you are working towards a common outcome in the conversation, that you care about their goals, interests, and values, not just your own.
So they need to believe you're in this together, looking for a solution that works for both of you. It's about trust.
Absolutely. Trust that you have good intentions towards them. Trust that you respect their goals. If people suspect you have malicious intent.
Like you're just trying to win or trick them or blame them.
Exactly. If they think you only care about your own agenda and don't give a damn about theirs, safety is instantly gone. Dialogue becomes impossible. That suspicion of negative intent, of a lack of mutual purpose, is a killer.
Like that example they gave, Jotham and Yvonne talking about intimacy.
Yeah, that's a perfect illustration. When Jotham responded with sarcasm.
Yvonne immediately clammed up.
Right, because his sarcasm, from her perspective, signaled that he didn't share her goal of having a genuine, caring conversation about intimacy. It signaled a lack of mutual purpose.
But even if he didn't mean it that way, his behavior destroyed her feeling of safety.
Precisely. His behavior, whatever his internal motive might have been, communicated a lack of shared purpose to her. So safety vanished, and she defaulted to silence withdrawing emotionally. Understanding this concept, mutual purpose, is the absolute first step in knowing how to make it safe when it evaporates.
Wow. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
Understanding what makes conversations crucial. Why we mess them up so often. The biology, the pressure, lack of models, self-defeating habits. Then the power of dialogue. Building that pool of shared meaning for better decisions and commitment.
Right. And recognizing silence and violence as sign safety is gone.
And then the principles for improving. Start with heart your motives, refusing suckers' choices.
Learn to look watching content and conditions, especially safety cues in yourself and others.
And now, starting to unpack, make it safe. Beginning with the critical need for mutual purpose.
It really all connects back to that central theme, enabling the free flow of meaning. It sounds simple, maybe, but it's incredibly powerful.
Yeah, it's clearly not just some abstract communication theory. It feels foundational to getting better results in, well, almost everything.
Relationships, work, community life.
And the flip side is stark too, isn't it?
Yeah.
The cost of not handling these conversations well. It's not just awkwardness or inefficiency.
No, the sources strongly suggest it impacts our actual health, the strength and longevity of our relationships, our career trajectories, the very health of our organizations and communities. The stakes are incredibly high.
So maybe a final thought for everyone listening. Given how profoundly these failed crucial conversations can impact us, our health, our relationships, our work, our communities, what crucial conversation are you perhaps avoiding right now? The one that, if you could find a way to handle it well, using some of these ideas, might make the biggest positive difference in your life.
Thanks for listening. Visit our library and subscribe below for more book summaries. This has been a Sprint Reads production.